today, I'm blessed to have with me Emily Elconin, who grew up at Temple Shir Shalom. Our family's been members for a long time. Proud bat mitzvah at Temple. We could tell bat mitzvah stories later on if we want, but that was years ago. But now, as an adult, working as a photographer, a professional photographer, and has been on this journey in the media, working in West Virginia for a little bit. West Virginia, right?
Just Virginia.
Just Virginia. Sorry, thanks, Virginia. And returned home last late winter and came to be professionally working with the wire and getting her photography all around the globe. And so welcome. Good to see you.
Yes, great to see you.
It was fun that in a sense, you called early on in the pandemic and said, hey, can I come and see services? Because we were still one of the only places doing services in the sanctuary, Rabbi, Cantor, and me, spread out and, going live to the community before we moved home to do them. And at that time, you were the only one in the sanctuary with us. And suddenly the Jerusalem Post picked up your photography, and then the New York Times did. And I always wanted to be in the New York Times. It wasn't for anything I said or did. It was just because it was a great photograph that you captured. So thank you for the notoriety you've given to us in that way. Talk to us about what you've been doing, how you've been spending your time, because I keep seeing photos appearing, CNN, Reuters, a lot of different have been using them, which is great. So congratulations to you for those successes.
Thank you.
But what's been happening these past months for you?
Well, I'd say compared to, the past year, the past month has been a little bit slower, a little bit quieter. Here, I've really been focusing on a lot of vaccine coverage, really trying to find unique ways or unique places that people are receiving the vaccine, turning facilities. Like I photographed at a fire station a couple weeks ago in Novi, and they've turned the fire station into a drive-through vaccination clinic. So I've been really focusing on that kind of coverage. I also was at the TCF Center, the parking garage a couple of weeks ago. They just started drive-through vaccination clinics there. So I just think it's really important to focus on the distribution and what we're seeing here in Michigan. During the election season, I was very, very busy. Michigan being a swing state, and just was a lot of stuff going on here. But things have kind of shift focus a little bit. For me, I'm trying to find a little bit of deeper stories. And now, as we transition into a new year, a new presidency, just trying to find those little glimpses of, slices of life. The other day during the inauguration, I just happened to find a family who was watching the inauguration. Actually, the lady that I contacted, her husband works at my high school. So that's how we originally were connected. So a lot of what I do can be very serendipitous and spontaneous. And that's what I love about it is, sometimes you see something and you go and photograph it, and it can turn into something that you never, I never even wasn't anticipating for that photo to end up, on CNN or anywhere. Just, I thought it was amazing that she let her kids take the day off school to watch, and how important it was to them. And I felt like it was really important to show those personal stories as well, because with COVID and the pandemic, can be challenging to tell those more intimate stories. But I've really been trying to transition and focusing on, the more personal aspects that people are experiencing. So yeah.
Cool. How much is your decision? How much is, oh, Emily, we want you to cover this?
So it really depends. Something I think that is unique about me is I really take initiative in a lot of what I do. I pitch on a regular basis, coming or asking my editors what kind of coverage they're looking for. So I can go out and find things that may align with what they need. Because so much of the focus has been, in DC and elsewhere, it's really up to you as the photographer, as the freelance photographer, to take initiative. And it can be challenging at times, but that's one of the things I think I learned working at the newspaper, especially, is some days I would just have to go out and find something and just hope that I would find something. And I kind of learned to find faith in the process, and just like know that the world is such an expansive, amazing place. And there's so many interesting people at every corner. So you're bound to meet someone or to find something. But it really can be a toss up. I would say in the past month, I've really been initiating a lot of my assignments. Before that, there was definitely more of a balance. But as I said, just not as many things have been going on in national news related to Michigan that have been super visual to cover, aside from the Capitol. I photographed them putting up like the fence a couple weeks ago and kind of boarding up the businesses. I made the decision not to want to cover the Sunday protest, just in wasn't really sure what was going to happen, just made a judgment call on my part. But I thought that showing the preparation and what they were doing was like just a really important part of the story to show how they were preparing in case something did happen. So definitely spent a lot of time in Lansing the past year. Like,
Yeah, I saw the New York Times picked up one of those photos too of the putting up the fencing and stuff like that. Well,
yeah,
it's, we should give everyone notice as well if they're watching this, that they now have a contact, and if you know of a story or something like that, you can let me know, because Emily will sometimes text me and said, "Hey, Rabbi, are you going to that protest march? Are you doing this?" And I remember when it was in June, the Black Lives Matter, we had a clergy march
right.
in Detroit, and so I let Emily know, and then let her follow me on my phone, sent her my tracking so that she could find me, because I at the where we met then was the governor and lieutenant governor both met there and spoke to us there. So there's an unpublished photo of me at that march, but that she sent
And
to
then
me.
sometimes that's how it happens, a lot of times I'll go to things and I'll just go and make connections with people and talk to people. The photos don't always get published, but that's most of my career has been just going out to events, going out to things, making photos for myself and just because I'm passionate about it. And I think that that's a really important part of what I do.
It's good that you have that passion, and you found your direction in that. Let's talk about how your Judaism is involved in this, because it's not a Jewish career, obviously. But you, as someone who's, I've known pretty much your entire life, and now, and one thing I know it's powerful is, your grandma's presence in your life as a survivor, and learning of that experience, and so how that sort of impacted you and what you're doing every day.
Yeah. So I definitely, I don't know a ton of other Jewish photographers. I have a few other colleagues that also come from Jewish backgrounds. But that definitely makes me feel unique in my voice and my identity and where, I'm telling stories from. Also been living in my grandma's house since I moved back from the pandemic. She's not here with me right now. She's back in Florida, but I've gotten to spend a lot of time with her during kind of my career development. So it's been a really, she's seen so much of the world. She's been through so much. And so it's interesting just to like have conversations with her about, sometimes I'd be going to an anti-abortion protest or a protest, Stop the Steal protest at the Capitol, and having like these conversations with her and hearing about her experiences is just super amazing to me, to be able to get a perspective from someone that is also my grandma, she's just such an amazing, special person. But also when I was in Syracuse, I really started documenting my family. That was something that I decided to do after I went to a workshop, and one of my coaches at my workshop, her name's Nancy Borowick, she documented both of her parents as they were going through cancer. They both ended up passing away, but she basically was like, these are our family's the most important thing. She also happens to be Jewish as well. So she really motivated me and inspired me to start documenting my family and photographing them. And in that way, it's kind of made me realize how unique we are, not just as a normal family, but also the Judaism and what that means to us, which ultimately means family to me and how close we are. So kind of by photographing and documenting them, I've kind of learned more about like my Jewish identity and how that really makes us close as a family because of our unique backgrounds. And my mom, the project that I've kind of been trying to come to fruition. It's basically about how my mom and my grandma are both like the female empowering figures in my family, and how like both kind of my sister and I have taken traits after them, but how they basically are like the matriarchs, and how that has shaped and influenced me into who I am because of how strong they are. So that's definitely been a really important part of my journey, like as an individual, but also it's a very vulnerable thing to photograph your family. I also do a lot of self portraits as well, but photographing your family can be it's different, but they're my family, and there's a whole different dynamic. I mean, I'll say my dad sometimes isn't as much of a fan as getting his photo taken, because he needs a copyright agreement before his photos are sent anywhere. But it's become like,
Thank you. Thanks, Joel. We really appreciate that, the support.
but it's become more of like a way that we learn about each other, and seeing my family in a different way, seeing myself in them too. We have an uncanny resemblance, so photographing them has helped me learn more about myself, and just inherently being Jewish, and our background and our stories has helped me kind of just like learn more about like the importance of my grandma's story and our story, and also figuring out a way how to like continue on the legacy. I also been doing a lot of archives. My grandma has like just tons of photo albums of old pictures of like her when she was growing up, and like all these different family members. So it's like it's super amazing to just like go through and kind of see like the journey of my family. So it's been like just a historical, like amazing experience to be able to like reconnect with my family archives and my family. And that definitely has, shaped me into the individual that I'm becoming, and ultimately like the lens that I'm looking out with the world, looking out on the world with.
Wow, that's a lot of depth there that I love hearing and learning. No, I think it's really powerful. And, it's a great message for us all to engage in our families in that way too. We don't have the ability maybe as photographers like you do, but each of us has a gift, right? That we can bring, and we can learn about those who are around us a little more, and find meaning in their stories and their experiences, because too often we just go through the motions in life. And maybe, one piece of a silver lining in the midst of this time that we've had to reorient ourselves, where these 10 months where we haven't had as many meetings, or our work schedule hasn't been as crazy possibly, that we can sort of reconnect and focus on that way too. I love that, and I think that's really a powerful thing to continue learning about, because I love the people so well when you learn new things about them too, right?
Right. I
And
mean, you realize that like your parents and your grandma were kids once, and that they were my age once, and it's kind of crazy to think about. But it's so important to like also see your family as as human, as a different, you see them in a different kind of way, learning about their stories and their experiences, and realizing, wow, like my parents were once my age, like things were so different back. My mom's like, I was just worrying about, blue jeans and beards when I was 25, and now living through a pandemic. So it's definitely like really.
the quote that's remembered for this time together, your mom's quote. Now, Lisa, I'm sorry that's going to be on the byline here, that what you were worried about at 25. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true.
Well, it's powerful in understanding that, and I think my children too would reflect on that too, and say, yeah, Dad's still a child. So, and they can't imagine me then, but see it, whatever. Time flies when we're in this conversation. Share with us as we wrap this up, what's been the most exciting opportunity you've had in photography that you've gotten to engage in, as someone, as a freelance photographer in the news?
That's hard. I mean, I think that being able to document the 2020 election was really incredible. I was a senior in college during the past election, 2016. So being able to actually work for a publication during that time, and I wasn't just making the work for myself, but I was actually working as a professional. I think that that was just a tremendous experience. From I think I maybe it was in August I started doing some political coverage, but it was just such a rewarding experience because growing up in Michigan, in Oakland County, I was going all over the state, to all these different places, meeting all these different kinds of people. So I was learning so much about my community, outside my community, different parts of my state. During one of the most historic, if not the most historic presidential election of my lifetime, to be able to contribute in some way, and also be an observer for myself and witness, these things happening, is something that I'll never forget. Also doing all this while wearing a mask, sometimes two masks, and learning how to navigate, making photographs that I'm proud of, also keeping safe at the same time, also making my deadline, all these things that I was navigating, but ultimately it was just extremely rewarding. I mean, I got to photograph both our vice president and president now at one point during the election season, and to be able to say that I got to do that is pretty incredible. I mean, my assignment that I photographed Joe Biden was for the New York Times. It was my first assignment. The press plane actually had broken down, so they couldn't get the photographers there. So I got like a very last minute call. Hey, Emily, like, can you go to Toledo? I'm like, I'm on my way. So, drove to Toledo, got there, made photos, and I was like pretty much shaking the entire time, just like from adrenaline and just how excited I was. But that was just like, one of them, and it was very unique because there was only two photographers there because all the photographers were like stranded on an airplane. So I kind of had like a more intimate experience getting to photograph Joe Biden, and it was very rewarding to be able to actually contribute to like bigger stories. I got to do a story about Gary Peters and John James, so that was very local to, of course, Michigan. So actually getting to contribute to these stories visually was just extremely rewarding, and I'll never forget 2020 for sure, for
Yeah,
many reasons.
that's remarkable. Well, it's already like 20 minutes after we've been having this fun, and I told you
We
it
could
goes
talk
really quickly,
forever.
right? We could. No, and I love hearing about this. And I love hearing what you're doing. I've seen it from the other side as you're, a few times in these past months, and enjoying that you're doing real work out there, and then seeing a couple days later it appearing, right? And I think it's really special, one of our kids to have this kind of success and to be doing good work. So and love what you shared about your own lens and the connections there too. So thank you for
Thank
being a part
you.
of Monday Morning Musings. And connected to your family as well. I'll do a couple quick announcements. Of course, this week, on Thursday, Rabbi's class on American Jewish history at 12 o'clock. That Zoom link you can get if you want. And Friday night is on January 29th is our immigrant Shabbat experience. Three of our members who all immigrated to this country are going to share their personal experiences, their journeys, what brought them here, and that transition into American life and the challenges around that too. So very powerful for us to hear. And then the following Friday is a lot of other exciting things. We have Dr. Fauci's right-hand man, Dr. Larry Brown, will be with us at services on February 5th and February. So that will be a fascinating discussion, of course, really remarkable physician and scientist. And then there's the cheese and wine tasting on February 12th. I know, it's just nice and fun. So all virtual, all remote, but all safe and wonderful experiences to have. Thank you again, Emily. And
Thank
for
you.
those who get to be a part of this and hear this, if you have stories or you see things going on, if you
Please.
shoot me, I can connect you to Emily, and she's always interested and takes beautiful pictures. So thank you for your photography. Thank you for your time and your good work,
Thank
and wishing
you.
you all the best and safety and strength in your journey on this too.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.